These are the over-engineered punishments that reveal what humans are truly capable of when cruelty meets creativity. Damnatio, Memoriae, erasing existence. Ancient Rome had a punishment worse than death. They called it Damnatio Memoriae, the condemnation of memory, and the engineering required to pull it off makes modern cancel culture look like child's play. Here's what happened. When the Roman Senate decided you were too dangerous, too disgraceful, or simply too inconvenient to exist, they didn't just kill you. They systematically erased every trace that you ever lived. Your name was chiseled off every monument across the entire empire. Your face was carved off statues or resculpted into someone else's features. Coins bearing your image were recalled and melted down. Laws you passed were nullified. Documents were rewritten. Even speaking your name became a crime punishable by death. Think about the logistics. The Roman Empire at its peak spanned 3 continents, from Britain to North Africa, from Spain to Syria. Imagine the bureaucratic coordination required to erase someone from every province, every city, every village. Orders had to be dispatched to governors, workers mobilized to every public building, thousands of inscriptions located and destroyed, all before the internet, all before telephones, all through written messages carried by horseback. Emperor Geta learned this the hard way in 211 CE. His brother Caracalla murdered him, in their mother's arms no less, then ordered his complete erasure. Workers went house to house in Rome and throughout the empire, destroying every image, every mention. The famous Severin Tondo painting shows the imperial family. You can still see where Geta's face was literally scraped off the panel. The mere mention of his name was punishable by execution, but here's the twisted irony. The Romans believed memory was essential to the soul's immortality. To erase someone's memory wasn't just bureaucratic housekeeping, it was spiritual assassination. You weren't just killed, you were denied any form of afterlife. Your soul would wander eternally, nameless and forgotten. And the ultimate irony? We remember them because of their erasure. The very effort to forget made them unforgettable. The scars of deletion became historical evidence. The boats, engineering decay. Let's shift from bureaucratic horror to biological engineering. The ancient Persians had something called scaphism, or the boats, and it makes Damnatio Memoriae look merciful. Here's the design. They'd trap you between 2 small boats or hollowed logs, with your head, hands, and feet sticking out. Then they'd force-feed you milk and honey until you were on the verge of vomiting, and smear it all over your exposed skin. Now here's where the engineering gets diabolical. The milk and honey served 2 purposes. First, it kept you alive longer than you'd naturally survive. Second, the inevitable diarrhea from consuming all that dairy would fill the boats, creating a stagnant pool around your body. The honey on your skin? Insect bait. Within hours, flies, wasps, and bees would swarm you. They'd lay eggs in the rotting waste. Maggots would breed in the filth. And here's the truly horrific part. They'd burrow into your body through any opening they could find, eating you from the inside out while you were still conscious. According to Greek historian Plutarch, one victim, a Persian soldier named Mithridates, survived 17 days in this state. 17 days of being slowly consumed alive by insects, festering in his own waste under the scorching sun. His crime? Drunkenly bragging that he'd killed the king's brother when the king wanted credit for it himself. The historical accuracy is heavily debated. Many scholars argue it was Greek propaganda designed to make the Persians look barbaric, an ancient form of enemy demonization. But someone, somewhere, imagined this system in enough detail to document it. Someone designed a machine that used biology itself as a weapon, turning your own body's functions into instruments of prolonged agony. That's the real horror. Not whether it happened, but that someone conceived it at all. The Brazen Bull, the sound of death. Around 560 BCE in ancient Sicily, a sculptor named Peraleus approached the tyrant Phalaris with what he thought was the ultimate gift, the Brazen Bull. It was a life-sized bronze statue of a bull, hollow inside, with a door on one side. The concept was ingeniously cruel. You'd place the condemned person inside, seal the door, and light a fire underneath. As the bronze heated up, It became an oven, slowly roasting the victim alive. But Parallaeus added an artistic touch that elevated this from mere execution to performance art. He designed a system of tubes and pipes inside the bull's head that would transform the victim's screams into sounds that resembled the bellowing of an actual bull. The acoustic engineering was so precise that onlookers wouldn't hear human agony, they'd hear an animal's call. The smoke from burning flesh would rise through the bull's nostrils like incense. When Parallaeus demonstrated his invention, Phalaris was so impressed, or perhaps disgusted, that he decided to test it immediately. He locked Parallaeus inside his own creation and lit the fire. The inventor became the first victim of his own design, pulled out half dead before being thrown off a cliff to finish the job. The irony doesn't end there. Years later, when the people of Acragas finally revolted against Phalaris's tyranny, they executed him inside the same bronze bull. Was it real? Archaeological evidence is scarce, and no actual brazen bull has been found. But the story appeared in multiple ancient texts from different sources. Real or not, someone conceptualized a musical torture device, an instrument that turned human suffering into entertainment. That's the true horror. The silent prison, engineering madness. Fast forward to 1829, Philadelphia, where prison reformers had a revolutionary idea. What if punishment came not from physical pain, but from total isolation? Eastern State Penitentiary pioneered the Pennsylvania system, complete solitary confinement. Prisoners spent 23 hours a day alone in their cells, with 1 hour in a private exercise yard. No interaction with other inmates, no conversation with guards beyond absolute necessity. Some prisoners were hooded whenever they left their cells, preventing them from even seeing the building they lived in. The architects believed this silence would lead to reflection, penitence, and genuine reform. They were creating better people through engineered loneliness. Instead, they created madness. Prisoners forgot how to speak after years of disuse. Some reported hearing their own heartbeat so loudly it drove them insane. Others developed severe mental illnesses that would never heal. Charles Dickens visited in 1842 and called it slow and daily tampering with the mysteries of the brain, immeasurably worse than any torture of the body. The horror wasn't in the design's failure. It's that it worked exactly as intended. The system broke people. It just broke them in ways the designers didn't anticipate or didn't care about. Over 300 prisons worldwide copied this model. The architectural innovation spread faster than anyone could document its psychological destruction. The practice officially ended in 1913, but only because overcrowding made it impractical, not because authorities recognized the damage. Today, solitary confinement remains controversial in modern prisons, a direct descendant of this enlightened experiment. The engineering of silence proved that you don't need medieval devices to torture someone. Sometimes, a quiet room and time are enough. The Dancing Plague, When Bodies Rebel, July 1518, Strasbourg. A woman named Frau Trophea stepped into the street and began dancing. Not celebratory dancing, convulsive, uncontrollable movement. She danced for days without stopping, feet bleeding, until she collapsed from exhaustion. Then others joined her. Within a week, dozens were dancing. By August, around 400 people were caught in the same compulsive frenzy, dancing day and night. Historical records confirm that some died from heart attacks, strokes, or sheer exhaustion. The city's response reveals how little they understood. They prescribed more dancing. They built stages, hired musicians, and brought in professional dancers to help the afflicted dance it out. This only made it spread faster. What caused it? The leading theory is mass psychogenic illness, a form of mass hysteria. Strasbourg was suffering from famine, plague, and extreme stress. People believed in divine punishment and curses. When combined with collective trauma and the right cultural context, entire communities could manifest physical symptoms of psychological distress. The dancing plague wasn't engineered by humans, but it represents something equally disturbing. How social and psychological pressures can hijack the body itself. No torture device needed, just fear, stress, and belief strong enough to make hundreds dance themselves to death. The last recorded dancing plague occurred in Madagascar in 1863. We don't fully understand it even today. Cold Spring Harbor, American Eugenics. Cold Spring Harbor, New York, 1910 to 1939. This wasn't medieval torture, this was American science. The Eugenics Record Office operated as a prestigious research institution funded by the Carnegie Institution and the Rockefeller family. Their mission? To improve the human race by preventing inferior people from reproducing. They weren't hypothetical about it. The ERO trained hundreds of field workers who went door to door, collecting data on American families, tracking everything from eye color to supposed traits like criminality, feeble-mindedness, and rebelliousness, which they believed were hereditary. Director Harry Laughlin used this research to testify before Congress, leading to the Immigration Act of 1924, which restricted immigration from Southern and Eastern Europe based on claims of genetic inferiority. He also drafted model sterilization laws that over 30 states adopted. More than 60,000 Americans were forcibly sterilized before these laws were repealed. The Supreme Court case Buck v. Bell, 1927, upheld forced sterilization. The decision has never been formally overturned, but the horror doesn't stop at America's borders. Nazi Germany explicitly modeled their 1933 sterilization laws on Laughlin's work. Nazi officials corresponded with the ERO, sending swastika-marked letters to Cold Spring Harbor. During the Nuremberg trials, Nazi defendants cited American eugenics programs and the Buck v. Bell decision to defend their own actions. Over 400,000 people were sterilized in Nazi Germany. The ideas that led to that started in a Long Island laboratory. The ERO closed in 1939 when the Nazi horrors became public, but by then, the damage was done. This wasn't ancient history. This was modern, scientific, systematic engineering of who gets to exist. These aren't just historical curiosities. They're blueprints of what humans are capable of when we engineer suffering, whether through bronze bulls, silent cells, or scientific institutions. The most disturbing part? Many of these were created with good intentions. Prison reform, scientific progress, deterring crime, public safety. Evil doesn't always announce itself with obvious cruelty. Sometimes it arrives dressed as innovation, progress, or justice. Sometimes the worst inventions in human history come with institutional funding and good intentions. The question isn't just, why was this built? It's, what are we building now that future generations will look back on in horror?